Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you. Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I want to talk to you about overwhelm. If you feel like life is getting a bit too much, if you feel like you are drowning because of a person, a situation, or an event, then I'm going to share 5 simple steps with you that will help to free you from this overwhelm forever. Now, I know that sounds like a bold statement, but just stick with me for the next 10 minutes. And I promise you that by the end of it, I'll give you the action steps that will mean that you don't feel like you are stuck and drowning again, because I have been there. I'm going to teach you some principles. I'm going to teach you principles which I would like you to actually learn and then adapt to the situation that you are going through right now, because I don't know you, I can't speak to you personally, unfortunately. So listen to what I'm saying and apply the principles to the situation that is causing you to feel stuck and overwhelmed, because this is a massive problem that I know a lot of people struggle with. And the main thing that I think people struggle with when it comes to this overwhelm and feeling like they're drowning is when it comes to money. Now, I know from personal experience that when I was at my lowest, I was completely overwhelmed when it came to money. I got myself into a lot of debt and I struggled for years until one day I lost my apartment and I had to move back home with my parents at 28 years old. So I don't want that for you. I don't want this overwhelm to get so much that you lose pretty much everything. And the reason why I want to talk about this today is because I had a very good friend of mine come over to see me earlier on this week because they were struggling when it comes to finances as well. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk specifically about finances today in terms of feeling overwhelmed, but take the principle of what I'm talking about, because it could be anything. It could be to do with your mental health. It could be when it comes to jobs, promotions, anything like that you feel overwhelmed. But the money is what I'm going to focus on, because I think that's where a lot of people do struggle. So my friend came over earlier on this week and basically she was struggling with money. She didn't know what to do. And I basically went over these 5 steps with her, which is why I wanted to talk about this. Now, it wasn't planned for me to talk about this, but basically what we did was we helped her take back control and got it all sorted out, where now her debt's been wiped out and she's now on a payment plan to get it all sorted. But she was completely overwhelmed, she was completely freaked out, and she had mounting debt to the point where she had no idea how much she actually owed, who she owed it to, etc., etc. So I don't want that to be you. However, I know the situation right now with a lot of people is that is them, which is why I wanted to share this with you. So 5 points. Number 1 is the first thing you've got to do to get rid of overwhelm forever is actually admit to yourself that you're struggling. Because no one can help you until you actually help yourself and admit that you are feeling stuck and lost. This is the hardest step. It's the most essential step. No one can help you unless you actually admit that you need help and you're struggling yourself. And for years, I convinced myself that I was okay. Literally years. And every credit card after credit card, I'd be getting this debt mounted up. Now, it wasn't to the crazy extent that maybe making it sound to be, but I'd basically have one card, get myself into a load of debt, pay it off, and then pay it off with another card. And it kind of just slowly built up and over time. And again, £1,000 here, £1,000 there. It slowly adds up and builds up. And then we've got this Klarna now where buy now and pay in 30 days. That wasn't around when I was struggling, thank God. But all of these things, these payday loans, these quick payday loans, all this money that's very easily available for people, and people can very easily get spiraled out of control. So you have to first admit yourself that you are struggling. But when you're admitting that you're struggling, when you do this hardest part, do it from a place of kindness to yourself, because this can be the hardest part. It's really easy. And this is the worst thing, especially when it comes to money. It's the worst thing to talk about. People hate talking about it. I hated talking about it. Even now to this day, when finances aren't a problem for me, when I'm planning future, where I'm investing, doing all these things, I still don't like talking about money, but that's something I've had to overcome. Because the reason why I didn't like talking about money is because it had some sort of control and power over me. And as soon as I was comfortable talking about it, it lost its power over me. Because it's normally ignorance. We normally fear things that we're ignorant to. So if it is specifically money that you're struggling with and feeling overwhelmed, it's normally ignorance to money. So you have to be kind to yourself. When you're actually admitting to yourself that you're struggling, be kind to yourself. And the way that you do this is, imagine that your best friend or a loved one, so if you're in a relationship, your loved one, or maybe your parents or your best friend, whatever it is going through the same thing that you are now admitting to yourself. How would you speak to them? Would you call them a loser? Would you call them a failure, no good, waste of space, pathetic, whatever other negative thing that you talk about yourself? Would you say that to your best friend, to your loved one? No, you wouldn't. You go there with love, kindness, and compassion, which is what you've got to approach this situation the same way with yourself. Start to be kind to yourself, but you have to, number one, admit that you are struggling, but do it in a kind, compassionate way, because you beating yourself up is just going to compound the issue. You're going to make yourself even worse and get yourself even further into the shell that you've already retracted into. Second thing, ask for help. So after you've actually admitted you're struggling, the next big step, which is also equally as hard, is actually asking for help. And this is what I hear time and time again. I don't like to bother people. I don't like to bother people. I don't like to reach out for help. I don't like to bother people. People got their own things going on. Yes, they do, but people also love to help. So you've got to get over this. My friend, when she reached out, straight away I said, come over, let's get it sorted. And something that she's been struggling with for months was sorted within 24 hours. You have to make sure that you get over this. Oh, but I don't have to bother people. The reason why you don't have to bother people is probably because you're asking the wrong person, or you have in the past. So you have to make sure that you're asking the right person, especially when it comes to something that's a sensitive subject for you. Don't ask that friend that you know is going to talk behind your back or talk to other people, the one you can't trust. Go to that one friend, even if they're not as close as the others, but go to that one friend that you know you can trust with the sensitive information. Or if it's a problem when it comes to money, for example, go to the friend that knows about money, that understands about debt. Maybe it's been through debt themselves, got themselves out of debt. Or the one that knows how the system works, whatever it is, the one that's got contacts. Ask for help from the right person in your life. And if you don't have anyone, there are helplines available. So if you are struggling with money, there are helplines out there, which is what we ended up doing in the end. We put a bit of a thing together, which is step 3, plan of action. But we ended up then calling a helpline, which then spoke us through all the options in the process. And it was very simple and easy for this person to get what they needed out of the situation. So if there isn't a person in your life you can talk to, then reach out online, look for some, and then find an organization, find a company, find a helpline that can actually help you. Talk to them, because then what they'll do is they'll put a plan of action together. So once you've admitted that you've got a problem, number one, and you've actually asked for help from someone, you need to then put a plan of action together so you have clarity, because the reason why you're feeling so overwhelmed is because you feel like you're drowning and you can't see anything. There's water, this thing, it's just on top of you, you can't breathe, you're suffocating, you're drowning. You need a bit of clarity. You need someone to grab you, pull you out from the water and just say, right, I know you're wet, I know you're struggling to breathe right now, but this is where we're going. This is the direction we're going into. You're safe, you're not drowning anymore. You've got to hold on to this boat. We've got this lifeboat and we're going over there. Because this will then destroy procrastination. When you've actually got a bit of a plan of action, you know where you're going, you're now not going to procrastinate, because the reason why I procrastinate is because we don't know where to turn. We don't know the next steps. And especially if you've done step 1 and step 2, you've now admitted it to yourself, which is fine. That straight away, that pressure's gone. You've then got someone now that's fighting your corner, which also takes the pressure off yourself. So you've now got someone that's fighting your corner. That massively, massively helps, which then means you can then regain control. You've now got an outcome, you know where you're going, and then you can do step 4, which is take small steps. Actually take the action. Action the plan that you're given. Because if you're reaching out to helplines, especially when it comes to debt management and stuff like that, go through the government website, loads of amazing things there. They will give you a plan of action. And maybe it isn't to do with money, maybe it's to do with your job, your future, relationships, whatever it is. There'll be a bit of a plan of action. These are the steps that you need to take, but you need to actually action those steps. And you're going to feel fearful. You're going to feel afraid. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel really, really uncomfortable. But the way that you destroy fear is by taking action as soon as possible. Don't wait, because the longer that you wait, the more you get inside your own head. And that is where you got into this mess in the first place. So don't delay it. Once you've got that plan of action, action the plan as soon as possible with small steps. Now, before I go to the last point, I've actually got bonus points. I've got 2 more points. If you've taken any value already from this episode, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. If you're on Spotify, please give us a star rating. It's at the top of the main podcast page. And then also, if you're on Apple Podcast, give us a star review and don't forget to subscribe and follow. Step number 5, accountability. So it's no good having this action plan and taking the first step if you don't have accountability. You need to make sure that you're doing what you said you would do. This comes down to discipline. Discipline is doing the things you know you need to do when you don't feel like doing them. And this can be very, very hard. So you may need to set alarms on your phone. You may need to have a proper diary planner, things organized out, knowing what you've got to do, where the payments are coming out if it comes to money, where's the payments coming out, where's the money, what day, all this stuff. Get it organized. When do you have to do things? Get it done. Don't miss deadlines. Don't miss dates. Be proactive with this. Now, there's absolutely no shame attached to any of this, by the way. because we all need help at some point, especially if you need that accountability. So many people need accountability. So many great leaders have coaches. So many great people have mentors. And why do they have mentors? Because it holds them accountable. It gives them the action plan and the action steps, and then they actually go and action it with accountability. This goes for the top of the top. There should be no shame attached to this at all. But when the accountability side kicks in, speak to friends. So if you have a problem, let's say, with money, speak to your friends and family members and let them know, listen, I've got a little thing going on with money. You don't have to divulge too much information. I'd really appreciate it if you don't try and force me to go out if I say that I can't. Because what's going to happen is you maybe go on lavish holidays, which you can't afford, which then gets you back into the situation. So you should explain to people, listen, for the next 12 months, I'm going to be a bit off the radar. I can't do as much things as we used to do, but I'd love to still go for a coffee or a drink, something small, low cost. Make sure you actually hold yourself accountable to it. Now, here's the bonus step. This is the most important thing that will umbrella everything here. Do the work on figuring out how you actually got in this situation in the first place. Because you felt overwhelmed, especially when it comes to money, if you got yourself into a lot of debt or something like that, you felt overwhelmed for a reason. You have to ask, how did you get there? You have to look at your beliefs, your habits, any triggers. Is it the environment that you're in? All of these things, you have to look at it. You have to turn inwards and figure this out. Otherwise, even with all of the steps nailed down, which will 100% get you unstuck from feeling overwhelmed forever, if you don't figure out why you're overwhelmed in the first place, you will keep making the same mistakes and patterns will repeat. So it may not be with money, but it may be in somewhere else. So please, please, please make sure you follow these steps. These, I promise you, will get you out of this overwhelm trap forever. See you guys on Tuesday for the main podcast episode. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys. Love you guys. Take it easy. See you next week.